Demonstration, I want to share with you the difference between the blend curve function, which we've seen in the previous video, and the match curve. Okay, so I'm going to use the same example that we have from the last video, which is these two curves here. So as you've seen before, I just right click on the fillet curve tool to extract my curve tools bar. And I use the adjustable curve blend by just left clicking and selecting first curve and second curve, and I could choose either position, tangency, curvature, continuities for my curves. Okay, so basically what it did is that it created an intermediate curve that would make the bridge between the first curve and the second curve. Okay. There's another little function that you're going to be using a lot, which is called the match curve. It's a bit different, but it uses the same principle in terms of continuities, meaning G0, G1, and G2, position, curvature, and tangency continuities. But this time it's going to impose a continuity from this curve to the second curve. Let me illustrate this for you. So I just go here, and it's called match curve. So I click on match curve, and I select the first curve, and then I select the second curve. So what happens is that first of all, I have the match curve menu that shows up, and I have the same type of continuities, so position, tangency, and curvature. But what happens is that when I selected the first curve, I impose the first curve to follow the second curve's blending mode. Okay, so in this first instance, you can see that it's a position continuity, so I impose this curve here to be in position at its endpoint over there with the second curve here. Okay, so if I want to change it to a tangency curvature, you can see the curve changing its behavior and giving you a smoother transition, again removing the kink line that you had previously in the position. Okay, so you can see the difference when I switch from one to the other. Okay, so, and then I can also have the constraint of curvature, trying to make it even smoother at this point. So that's why it deformed even more. It depends. It doesn't mean that you always need to go to curvature continuity, because you can see that your curvature can change its behavior from time to time. Okay, so you can also do an average between the two curves. So when I click the first curve and the second curve, I impose the tangency continuity, between this curve to that curve. But I can make an average, so I can click on this, and it's going to take the second curve, which is here, which was illustrated here, and change its shape so that you have this nice continuity between these two. And I can have also a curvature continuity between these two curves, and it's going to change furthermore by adding one more control point at each end of these curves and changing their properties. Okay, I can join them automatically. So if I join them and I click OK, it's like clicking on the join function. So you're going to have this one curve and another curve joined together. Or instead of joining them, I can merge them. If I merge them, in this case, it's going to treat it like as if it was only one curve. So let's say I check the option average curves and I want to merge them, and I click OK. So that means when I click on it and I want to, let's say, explode it, because I want to separate them, you can see that I am unable to separate them because it says cannot explode a single curve element because I use the merge function. Okay, so there's a big difference between join and merge. So that's with the match curve option. So if I go, for example, and click on match curve again, and this time I click on this curve, and then I click on that curve, now I'm going to remove the average curves. I'm just going to uncheck merge as well. Now I'm imposing this curve to go and be a position continuity. So it's going to create a little kink here. Or I can have it a tangency continuity, so it's going to add a control point and modify the property of that curve, or a curvature continuity to make it even smoother transition between this curve and that. But you can see that it's modifying its shape, okay, a little bit. And then you can also, if you had like at the other end of that curve, another curve, you could preserve and impose the type of constraints also. I don't use this often actually because I'm always focusing on this end, but you can also impose these constraints, and I'm not sure why they really have it because I don't see much of an influence, to tell you the truth. Okay, but you want to play with these options using the match curve tool, which is found again in the curve toolbars, and it's this icon here. Okay, so notice the difference between match curve and adjustable curve blend is that match curve, you get to work with only the two curves. So if I just make a quick copy, I select these two curves and I do copy just to show you the difference between these two, because it happened to some of my students not understanding fully the difference. So if I do adjustable curve blend, I select the first one and the second one, and let's say I want a tangency and tangency like this. I have 1, 2, and 3 curves. That's by using the adjustable curve blend. And if I do match curve and I go select 1 and 2 and I impose a tangency again, and yeah, I can check average curve, I still have 1 and 2 curves. Okay, so here with the adjustable curve blend, I created a new curve that would bridge these two. Okay, so that's the main difference between adjustable curve and match curve. Okay, so thank you for your attention.